Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. I hope you are doing well, especially with the dog barking in the background. Right now, we are about to embark on a content reaction to a video that I did pretty much just a few months shy of 10 years ago at this point. You're looking at a 10-year difference between old Fantano and old Fantano. Looking at this picture is bringing back memories of my old second floor studio apartment that had a washing machine in the kitchen that I lived in with my significant other. I know that it looks like I'm enclosed in a room, but believe me when I say this thing was a glorified studio apartment. It was a cramped but very, good, amazing space to kind of kick things off in. Again, this was back in 2012, so I'm pretty sure at this point I was still working those pizza ovens. I may have still been doing the older iteration of the podcast that was being hosted on a few different NPR stations, and also for perspective, by this point, the Needle Drop had first started as a podcast back in 2007. So I'd already been doing the Needle Drop in some way, shape, or form for 5 years at this point. And I was just now, at the time of putting up this review, starting to maybe transition into doing this full time. So in an interesting time for me personally before I actually get into the meat of the review here and react to it and see how exactly my criticisms and my feelings on this album have held up over the years. I listened to The Money Store, I believe a few months ago, so the record is somewhat fresh in my memory. And quickly before I start hitting play here, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, good people over at The Ridge. Still making these awesome, nifty, metal-plated minimalist wallets that fit nicely in that front pocket. Hit up that link down below. Promo code MELON. 10% off your order. That's all you got to know. Death Grips, The Money Store, legendary industrial hip-hop album. My first 10 out of 10, I believe, on the channel. And there was a lot of commotion around that because up until that point, and still to this day, I have a reputation for critically being kind of a hard ass. So yes, I was also kind of picky during this time as well. And this was my first. It's still to this day one of my most popular reviews. And again, I'm looking forward to seeing how exactly it has held up in glorious 360p resolution.
Hi, everyone.
What a beautiful, smooth, young melon. I still wish I had that sweatshirt. I'll say that.
Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review. Death Grips, The Money Store.
Oh God, the skips. I used to throw so many skips in my videos, mostly because I was just watching so much Tim and Eric and I thought that was cool. Though they were also there because usually because I was working so much and doing a lot of different shit, I only had so much time to shoot a video. So I couldn't do third, fourth, fifth takes on a line. So if I said it the wrong way, I would just bunch it up with another line of me saying it somewhat correctly, and I'd just splice them together. Also loving the record shelf still in the background. That record shelf is as old as time at this point, very much in the distance in this shot, but still there.
Death Grips is a Sacramento-based experimental hip-hop trio featuring MC Ride on vocals and Zach Hill and Flatlander kind of handling the production behind things. And the mixtape they put out last year, Ex-Military, ended up being my second favorite album of the year when it came time to do lists. And the reason this landed as second in my favorite albums of the year is because it's such a forward-thinking hip-hop album.
One thing I'm noticing, just personally anyway, and I don't know if this is something that bothers anybody, but there's a bit more space. There's a slower pace between the edits and a lot of what I'm saying, even the speed at which I talk. And I feel unconsciously over the years, I just have, started to edit things tighter, edit a lot of things faster and just talk faster, which I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing or a great thing, but watching it at this speed is almost watching, molasses move.
And turns them up to a deafening volume. Everything becomes extreme.
I wonder what I was thinking when I decided to lean into the camera and go. I definitely wanted to be expressive with my hands a lot of the time and make sure I was conveying excitement and feeling during these videos. You know, one thing when I started doing these reviews, I was really thinking like, I really want people to feel the review. I want people to feel if I'm excited, and maybe sometimes I oversold it a little bit to kind of get that point across.
Yeah, The Money Store definitely has roots in traditional hip-hop, but it is not an album for hip-hop traditionalists.
That's a good way to phrase it there, Antonio. That's a good way to phrase it, Antonio. Create that little dichotomy there. That's cute.
The beats, for one, are so freaking noisy, sharing a lot of characteristics with the solo albums that Zach...
Maybe I need to bring that back. I got kind of lazy with pulling albums up.
In the lyrics being depicted in really stark black and white images, depicting bodies and bullets and blades and blood spray.
Good alliteration, Anthony. Really good. One thing I'm noticing so far about like the tone and perspective of the review, and I don't know if there's like really any way I could have known this at the time that I was reviewing this record, because it was such a new sound. It was such a new direction. I wish I had more, I guess, nuance in my explanation of how Death Grips kind of fits into the overall hip hop picture, and talked about the way it takes some of those extremities and just turns them up to a disgusting level, without making those extremities look as if they are as predominant as maybe I seem to be kind of like implying. You know what I mean? But outside of that, I'm kind of vibing with a lot of what I'm saying still 10 years later, specifically in regards to like, my descriptions of certain things.
And on the track I've Seen Footage, he raps about the police brutality and violence that he's seen that kind of fuels that paranoia.
One more thing I wish I added that I've obviously said about the track in, retrospect is, just the way that song is just so much about the internet. The internet and various social media and video platforms kind of like expose you to that gore and that footage and those horrors in a way that no other medium has before. I guess, another thing I don't have quite enough perspective on yet, and of course you gain it 10 years later, is just how online this record is and how much of a portrayal of the ugly world of the online space Death Grips is The Money Store, and in general their catalog is.
On the track Hacker, the lyrics are so out there and disconnected, simultaneously name-dropping WikiLeaks, Tesla, and Lady Gaga in a way that kind of feels really glitchy and disorienting, which the song title kind of asserts. And the tracks...
But like, hacker, internet, computers, like talk about it. Now I'm like, okay, well, there's like a little bit of like creative context missing here.
System Blower kind of seems to be a bit of a double entendre. Obviously, a car system comes to mind, and that is referenced in the lyrics, but with how violent MC Ride gets with his words on a lot of verses in this track, to me it kind of feels like he's also pointing his anger at the construct of systems, possibly.
I would say probably, Anthony. I would say obviously. Pretty clear connection there.
Most of this album is loaded with violent, make sure a parent is around kind of content.
Mommy, please, I need you here so I can listen to the Death Grips, please.
Sitting all the way through this album can be a lot like A Clockwork Orange, and you're kind of tied to your chair and your eyelids are peeled back and you're just being exposed to all of this horrifying, soul-rotting imagery.
Yo, that's actually, yeah, that's it. In terms of everything I've said about this album 6 minutes in so far, that's probably the most 100% description of this record. Like unconsciously, if I had to re-review it again, I would probably reuse that same analogy. I would probably pull from it, not knowing, not remembering that I said it in this video.
I can't help but compare the character on this album to like Waka Flocka Flame, except actually scary and aggressive and dangerous. Not this slick, money-making gangsta image of aggression.
Credit to Waka Flocka, though, because I think I probably put like Waka Flocka's legitimacy into question there, and I definitely don't question that. And I was a lot harder on Waka's music around this time than I am now. And, you know, again, in retrospect, you have to respect the fact that like that fucking project is like in so many ways what like really made trap music, at least like what we know it to be in the modern era, made it really pop off.
Got. I'm in your area. It's such a long way down. Double.
So many great fucking hooks on this record.
Amazingly catchy, which is a feat considering how ugly and harsh and uninviting this album is. If you can withstand the force, a lot of these tracks are going to stick with you. It's kind of like wanting to join a gang and then, of course, upon entry you get hazed and beaten up and abused, but once you kind of make it through that initial rough spot, you're in the gang and everything's cool.
Also a pretty like 100% description of this album.
The song Fever, by contrast, the song right after, is just pure hell. The track is like listening to an alarm go off in the middle of an underground government-funded lab where a genetically engineered mutant has just broke out and is on the loose.
That is what that song sounds like. Ride sounds like the beast breaking out of the secret alien government facility on that track with the it sounds like being in like playing living and existing in like Doom 64 or some shit. Hey, I literally just made that sound.
The song, while staying completely Death Grips in just being abrasive, being hip-hop, being just so in your face, the way the drum beat works, the distorted riff, as well as MC Ride's flow, all call out to golden age hip-hop artists like Run DMC, Salt and Peppa, Tone Loc, and the track Hacker has...
Hey, you gotta mention that Tone Loc song, because it's more like Tone Loc than anything.
Not only is this LP really heavy and abrasive, but it's also thought-provoking. It's extremely layered and does not give up all of its secrets in the first, second, or even 10th listen, despite being very loud. To be completely honest...
Yeah, I mean, what I'm kind of getting at here, what I guess I would like to illustrate, and obviously Death Grips isn't like the first artist or band or whatever to do such a thing, but I think, you know, they definitely stand out in terms of their decade and their era for this, but, you know, they really just like forged a sound that is so physical and so visceral, but it's also kind of a thinking man's record too. You know what I mean? It's attack mode, but simultaneously it's also very heady. And oftentimes I think you'll find a lot of artists either inhabit one of those spaces or the other. And Death Grips very comfortably straddles both.
Instead, the Money Store looks to kind of forge something for itself. This thing is sitting on a throne of its own design and nobody's watching because the picture is just too horrifying to stare at.
It's sitting on a throne of its own design and no one's watching.
I'm loving this record. Freaking loving this record. Freaking loving this record. Can't really say much else about it. Kind of feeling a strong 9 to a 10.
I gave it a 10? Whoa, Fantano gave this a 10? Holy shit. Fantano gave this thing a 10? He almost never gives a 10. Like, I heard the record, and I don't know if it's a 10. I think it's pretty decent, but like a 10? I think Fantano's a little overboard on this one, honestly. I think a 10's a little much. You know, maybe he's biased. I think maybe he's biased if there's any kind of music that's noisy or weird or for virgins, he's going to give it a 10. So, you know, I think it's just his bias. I don't trust him. He's bald. But there is my first 10 years later. Let me know what you guys think. Are you still rocking with this review? Does it still mean anything to you? Does Death Grips, the Money Store, still mean anything to you? And yeah, I mean, what a legendary moment for internet video, the needle drop music review history, I guess. Also, let me know if this review turned you on to Death Grips. I'm imagining there's some people.
Anthony Fantano, Death Grips, forever.
I was saying forever then, but I wasn't doing transition. Over here next to my head, it's another video. Thank you. Love you. You're the best. Yeah, Death Grips, the Money Store, forever.